Welcome to the shooting show. I'm Simon Garnham, and this morning I'm on the Essex coast. It's the last week of the wildfowling season and I'm out after a duck. Let's see what's about. It's the last week of the wildfowling season. Those of us on the coast are lucky to have 20 extra days in February when we can get down to the marsh edge below the high water mark in pursuit of a duck. And today, with a nice full moon, the light's been really good since early on. The main estuary is away to my front, and this is a side creek running through the South Essex countryside. It's low tide, so we can get right down to the water's edge and see what we can see. Good girl. Here. Good girl, here. Good girl, dead, 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 dead. Good girl. Good girl. Dead, dead, dead. Good girl. Good girl. Hey. Another rather beautiful male widgeon. So it's getting light now, and at first light we had the first movement of birds. Had a crack at a pack of 4 teal and dropped one, and then 2 packs of widgeon came through, and I managed to pick one out of each of those as well. So it's been a good start to the day. It's the first light. It's about 5:20, 5:30 at this time of year. Same in September actually, 5:20, 5:30, that's when the birds shift. And they'll just do that flurry of movement at first light and then quietens down. You can see that the mud is crisscrossed with Scout's tracks, and she is now filthy from the retrieves. But we're happy, aren't we? You've done a good job there, and it's what she's all about really. So I've got 2 different cartridges today. I've got the Ely VIP Steel Pro Eco with a biodegradable wad, and I've got the that's for the duck, which were good. Dropped both widgeon dead and the teal, and I've got this Magnum Mammoth 3-inch game bore cartridge, 36 gram number 1, in case we do get some geese come over. Still optimistic there's going to be more duck on the move. I'm going to give it another 20 minutes, half an hour. Perhaps crack open the thermal, so that's always a guaranteed way to bring birds overhead. That's just been a pair pass high up the river, up the creek, just out of range. But yeah, I'm just going to give it another 20 minutes, half an hour. It's a nice morning to be down here. Plenty to see, plenty to watch. Been a good flight. Got an early teal, beautiful little cockbird there, and a pair of widgeon as well, both male as well, full breeding plumage, glorious colours. So just gonna have a coffee and head back home, get a bacon sarnie, clean off the gun, got. Oh, I say that. There's Canada geese on the move over there. Typical. Canada's coming our way. Canada's coming over. No. Well, that's just revived my enthusiasm having those Canadas going over and a few more birds about. I might give it another 10 minutes, finish this coffee. So I'm in the north of the county now, north of Essex on the River Stour estuary, the boundary between Essex and Suffolk. The tide's about half an hour off high and there is bright sunlight, which is not ideal, which is why I've just tucked myself in the shadows of the sea wall here, just on the edge of the tide line and amongst the flotsam and jetsam. I'm hoping for a bit of movement with the tide, and there's a few birds about. There's a pair of widgeon just moved across me to the front, but quite a long way out. So I've slung out some decoys just to try and entice them in. Half a dozen widgeon decoys and a couple of teal and a couple of mallard. And I'm hoping that as the tide rises and then drops and the mudflats become exposed again, the birds will just move, see the decoys and be tempted within range. What's been good about this season is that it's been dry through January, the sort of dry January that wildfowlers like. And so there isn't a great deal of rainwater lying around the county or lying around East Anglia, and so the birds have held on the coast and there are still good numbers about. I'm just hoping that with a bit of cooling and hopefully if the decoys don't shine too much, we might just call a few in and maybe get a couple, and if not, I've got the binos, there's lots about, there's grebes in amongst the decoys now, but hopefully there'll be teal and widgeon as well, and maybe mallard as the flight progresses. Tide flight at this time of year is a bit optimistic in bright sunlight like this, but a strong wind gives it a fighting chance. And last weekend, when I was just watching, there were a lot of birds tucked in on the shore here and swinging around. So I thought with the decoys there'd be a chance. Maybe there will still. You can just hear the teal dropped in down here in front of me. So typical of teal. They just skim along the water and you're not watching. Widgeon moving along there. Come on, widgeon. Shelled up. Oh, a pair of widgeon just dropped just out of range there. Typical. There's a wonderful look at that pintail. You see the pintail with the white breast? Pintail and Brent there. Unfortunately, on the estuary we're not allowed to shoot pintail here. Natural England licence doesn't allow it. Well, the dog's getting a bit restless now and starting to eat my deerstalker jacket. It's been a lovely afternoon, but maybe a bit optimistic to think we'd get some shooting on a tide flight in late February. Plenty of birds about, just none within gunshot. If you've liked the video, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. If you've liked what you've seen of wildfowling, have a look on the BASC website for their permit scheme. There's some really wonderful clubs all around the country that will be willing to take you out to have a go. It is a brilliant, brilliant pastime, fantastic sport. And these last 20 days of February can be fantastic, really brilliant. It's been quiet this afternoon, but dawn flight this morning was great. And I hope to see you again for another wildfowling video in due course.
Hello fuel gauge fans, Ed Coles for Shooting Times magazine. This week we're looking at the revamped legend that is the Defender 90. This is the P300 X Dynamic SE petrol engine, staying pretty true to the original silhouette, bit of checker plating on there as well. And on this one we've also got some fancy air suspension which goes up and down, so let's get knee deep and see if we can get stuck. So if we open the bonnet, we can see not a lot really. Underneath the plastic trim there is a 2 litre petrol turbo engine, yeah, petrol, 300 brake horsepower, 400 newton meters of torque, top speed of 119 miles an hour, and 0 to 60s 6.7, so reasonably pokey for a 4x4. Yeah, we can see a little bit of the fancy air suspension, which will raise and lower, give us a little bit more breathing room underneath. Yeah, looks promising. So, workhorse end. 3. Could probably squeeze one more bag of wheat in there. It's enough for a bag, I suppose. Probably get a Cocker Spaniel in the back. You struggle to get a Labrador in there. Shotgun is definitely going to be a rear seat job. With the rear seats down, probably talking 10 plus bags of wheat. Yeah, a little bit disappointed on the space front, but you know, is what it is. Well, inside, quite plush, black leather interior, heated and cooled seats, plenty of power supply in here. Let's start her up. All the controls are on the screen. We've got a low traction launch if we need it. We've also got fancy suspension. If we push that button up, that'll raise the suspension up, so in theory we shouldn't clobber the underneath of it when we're driving it. Heater buttons double up for the fan, and also this is where we've got our off-road settings: grass, gravel, snow, mud and ruts, sand, rock crawl. It's got its own wading program as well, and we've also got a configurable off-road setting, so we can manually adjust how high we want things. We can also lock all the diffs, so we can have a play around with that. All the usual gizmos that you'd expect: DAB, sat nav. We've also got 4x4 information, so we can see what's happening. We can lock everything. Also got, can't find it, Eco settings, here we go, eco data, so we can keep an eye on how many polar bears per gallon we're destroying. Yeah, pretty user friendly. Isofix in the back, little bit of a faff because it's a two-door, actually getting the seat in there, but once you've actually negotiated the seat, pretty easy to fit. Yeah, it's all very nice. We have a camera as the rear view mirror, which is a bit confusing if you've got something in your eye, but yeah, quite nice. So the business end at the back of the 90, with the air suspension, lowest point 226mm of ground clearance, which is more than enough to be honest with you, but at its highest setting 291mm, so there's pretty much nowhere we won't be able to get to. Well, what do we think then? Very capable on-road and off-road. The height adjustable suspension is definitely a plus. Extra £1,600 for that kit. Bottom line, just over 53,000 for this. We could do with a little bit more room in the load bay, but other than that, pretty good effort. So the legend lives on.